Well, here are my thoughts on this experiment. The first one, what percent of patients in the treatment group were pain-free and what percent of the control group? And for the treatment group, if you do the arithmetic, you get about 23%, and for the control group, you get about 4%. Uh, okay, so let's just take those numbers and try at question B. At first glance, does acupuncture appear to be an effective treatment for migraines? Well, it cures 1 in 5, which is not exactly a home run, okay? And many people who've looked at this question focus on the fact, well, it only cures 1 in 5. Uh, Other people focus on the fact that 1 in 5 is a lot better than what you get with the controls, which is like 1 in 25. So yeah, it's not a perfect cure, but there's something different. At least there appears to be something very different about what happened to the treatment people and what happened to the control people. And if this were a cancer cure, for example, and you were able to cure 1 out of 5 cancer patients, you'd make headlines. You'd get a big prize of some sort. You'd be really rewarded. Uh, but with migraines, you say, well, if it's not a home run, then what the heck? Okay. Uh, Question C, do the data provide convincing evidence that there's a real pain reduction for those patients in the treatment group? Or do you think that the observed difference might just be due to chance? We'll deal with this a lot when we get into statistical inference. And here's the question that's being asked there visibly, which is it possible that if those two were really the same, if there were really no difference between having the treatment and not having the proper treatment, that you could possibly get this kind of difference between 10 and 43 versus 2 out of 46? And when we study statistical inference, we'll take a serious look at that question. Right now, we don't have any formal tools to do that with. All we have is kind of our intuition. And my intuition tells me that is a significant difference. But the other things we have to consider at this point, and what's really the topic of this chapter, is do you see any challenges to the design of this study? And you realize that the gold standard is a double-blind study. That is, the patient does not know whether he or she is getting the proper treatment or not. And it also requires that the person administering the treatment must not know whether the subject is getting the proper treatment or not. So that makes an interesting quandary. How could you possibly have an acupuncturist delivering the treatment once in the right place and once in the wrong place, and not knowing which is the right place and which is the wrong place? Well, if a person doesn't know which is the right place and which is the wrong place, I certainly wouldn't want him or her sticking a needle in my ear. So there's a very good possibility that what we see here is has been contaminated by the fact that the professional acupuncturist, in some way or another, with his eyes or with the way he held his hands or the expression on his face, communicated the fact that, I'm sorry, but you're not getting the real treatment, so this probably isn't going to work. On the other hand, when the acupuncturist is actually doing the right thing, the acupuncturist is very confident, says, this should really work with you. He may not say that, but he might give that impression some way. So, okay, this is not a great experiment, but that particular challenge is what we really wanted to focus on.